Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Livingston, and I am the Bitcoin Wizard. Incredibly bullish news from Metaplanet yet again. I must say, I am getting incredibly excited to continue to buy shares of this company. But remember, this is not financial advice. This is financial entertainment. I don't need anybody projecting your emotions on me for your own investing decisions. I remember back in May when I bought the stock at $3, I started making videos about it, and then it went up to $15 plus. We got a quick 5x, everybody loved me, and then all of a sudden it started going down, and now everybody hates me. Let me just clue you in. I didn't tell you to buy then, I didn't tell you to buy at the top, and I also didn't tell you to buy now. And I also never told you to sell at any of those times either. The reality is that I was bullish then, I was bullish at the top, I'm still bullish now. My time horizon is not yours. I am giga bullish, so don't come crying to me if the stock doesn't perform in fiat terms under your own time horizon, you little rascal. All of the haters and the losers out there just can't stand the fact that they have low time horizons because they don't have the IQ required for a longer time horizon. The reality is that I am just long Bitcoin and short fiat, and this company is the ultimate manifestation of that in the capital market in the world that needs it the most. All right, so let's talk about what Metaplanet has just done, because this is not some simple restructuring. This is a corporate exorcism. The company is executing the most significant overhaul in its entire history, and they have done it with the confidence of a man who knows that the auditors can never catch him. They're not tweaking anything, okay? They're not optimizing. They are opening the hood. They are ripping out the engine. They are throwing the transmission into the Pacific Ocean, and they are replacing every moving part with something designed to convert fiat into Bitcoin at a speed that should not be legal. Yes, I'm talking about the Metaplanet Prefs, Class A and Class B, Mars and Mercury. And on top of that, they have rewritten their Articles of Incorporation. They have not edited, they have rewritten them. Like a teenager deleting their cringe MySpace posts, total overhaul of the rules so they can issue endless preferred shares and never again be held hostage by bad structuring from last year. The moving strike warrants, gone, nuked, erased. They have canceled almost 400 million shares. They're reissuing a cleaner, smaller batch at higher exercise floors. Imagine pulling the weeds out of your garden and replanting flowers that do not give you rashes. That is what they're doing. So there's lots of things we're going to be going over today. If you put all of this stuff together, the new capital stack looks suspiciously familiar to early 2025 strategy. That's correct. They're building the Japanese MicroStrategy, kids. This is not an accident. This is intentional. This is the brainchild of Dylan LeClaire and Simon Garovich, okay? This is an escalation of war against the fiat system, and it is a beautiful thing to witness, so welcome to the transformation. You are watching the small Japanese hotel company turn itself into a Bitcoin accumulating monster in real time. Let's get into the details. But before I do, I really want to give a thank you to Horizon for sponsoring the Bitcoin Wizard and me spreading the orange gospel to the masses. If you want to take your trapped home equity, that's right, you live in some crack house where you have 90 grand in equity, use Horizon, take your home equity and go buy digital immortality. You have a 4% annual rate of return on your crack house. Why don't you just take that equity and get a 40% return with digital immortality instead of the crack house? Just use Horizon. You can do it with no debt, monthly payments, or term limits. The Bitcoin is fully yours to hold however you want to. And guess what? You could even take it and buy Metaplanet stock. Click the link in the description below. I will talk more about Horizon at the end of the video. All right, time to talk about the overview of the Metaplanet transformation. Remember, this company has a goal of 210,000 Bitcoin, and they said, yeah, okay, I guess we need to rearrange the entire legal financial architecture of the company. Now, this is ultimate ambition. They already hit their year-end goal of 30,000 Bitcoin, and they did it months in advance. They're currently sitting on 3,823 Bitcoin, which is very adorable considering where they're going. They've had an amazing year in Bitcoin terms, at least. My shares now have about 3 times the Bitcoin exposure that they did when I originally bought. The fully diluted BTC per share is up 497%, which is the corporate way of saying we just broke our calculator. And at this point, I think the company has realized, look, the common stock issuance is not going to get us the capital that we need when we're not trading at a crazy multiple. Common stock can't do this. Regular fundraising can't do this. Normal companies can't do this. They needed a capital formation strategy specifically engineered for Bitcoin mania. They need preferred classes of shares. They need perpetual issuance capability. They needed a financial structure that can survive bull markets, bear markets, and whatever fresh insanity Bitcoin invents next. So they tore their old capital policies apart and have rebuilt them like scientists stitching together a new species. Now they can raise capital aggressively, continuously, shamelessly, without waiting for the market to wake up and price their stock correctly. They did not restructure because they wanted to. They restructured because nothing short of a full rebuild could handle the amount of Bitcoin that they plan to drag onto their balance sheet, and they're not stopping. This is only the second inning of their insanity. Metaplanet reduced their capital stock to 1 yen, not 1%, not 1 billion, 1 single yen. This is corporate minimalism taken to such an extreme that if Apple did this, CNBC would have to run a 24-hour live stream of Jim Cramer screaming into a bucket. But here's the thing, kids, this isn't reckless. This is smart because reducing capital stock down to practically zero dumps billions into capital surplus, which is the corporate version of sweeping everything into a slush fund labeled do whatever we want. So now they can pay preferred dividends without a fight, move capital around like it's a private Discord server, execute buybacks whenever they feel spicy, and issue more preferred shares without triggering 47 accounting alarms. And they can build the world's most flexible capital policy for buying Bitcoin until the end of time itself. They also nuked their capital reserve entirely. Why? Because it was in the way. It was slowing them down. It was like having a roommate who keeps asking you why you're buying Bitcoin instead of more groceries. They needed full range of motion, total agility, kids, zero friction, so they deleted the entire reserve. They rewired the entire balance sheet like a surgeon who drank a Red Bull before operating. Now dividends work better, preferred issuance works better, the whole machine runs cleaner, and most importantly, it clears the runway for the insane amount of capital that they plan to cycle directly into Bitcoin. So this isn't a reduction, it is a purge. And the result is a company that can raise money, can pay dividends, and can accumulate Bitcoin with absolutely nothing slowing it down. They also took their total authorized shares, their 2.7 billion of them, and brought it up to 3.883 billion, like they were ordering a family-sized combo meal. No hesitation, no apology, no concern for anyone trying to keep track of this stuff in a spreadsheet, okay? They just smashed the more button like a bored toddler with an iPad. Why? Because they know what's coming. Because this company isn't fundraising. They are open pit mining the capital markets until they have enough Bitcoin to make half the central banks on Earth start to sweat. And to do that, they need the authorization to issue their Mars shares, their Mercury shares, issue whatever unholy hybrid instruments that they invent next, raise capital nonstop, buy Bitcoin nonstop, ignore anybody who complains nonstop. They also doubled the authorization for both preferred classes, Class A and Class B, from 277.5 million to 555 million. No, that's not a typo. They doubled the ammunition for both weapon systems. Adam, why does this matter? Well, the answer is because preferreds are now the core engine of their entire treasury strategy. They don't want to wait for the markets to get it anymore. They want to issue new preferred shares whenever they feel like it, raise hundreds of millions at a time, and shovel it directly into Bitcoin. This is also how they prepare for recurring institutional financings, their planned Class B preferred IPO, their multi-year BTC acquisition waves, a treasury strategy that is so aggressive the Tokyo Stock Exchange might need emotional support animals. This is not a small authorization change, kids. This is Metaplanet building their launch pad for their next several years of Bitcoin accumulation. They're not thinking like a small cap anymore, kids. They're thinking like a company that expects to go from niche curiosity to, oh God, why is this Japanese corporation hoarding so much Bitcoin, to compete with the Bank of Japan? In record time at that, in record time. All right, now let's talk talk about Class A, also known as Mars, also known as the security blanket for institutions who panic when Bitcoin moves more than 5%. Class A is the part of the capital stack designed specifically for people who clutch their pearls every single time a Bitcoin candle prints slightly wrong. It sits at the top, it gets paid first, and it exists to convince traditional investors that they're not participating in a corporate version of Russian roulette. This thing is senior preferred. Do you know what that means? That means it's walking around a lounge with a VIP badge that says you losers can wait your turn. It's going to have an adjustable monthly dividend, a lot like Strategy Stretch, that will move up or down depending on how the market behaves. If the price drops and there's less demand, the dividend goes up. If the price rises, the dividend goes down, which is the cleanest way possible of telling institutions and individual investors, hey, just relax, you're getting paid, stop crying. This thing will stabilize the system. It can tighten the range. It keeps the capital stack from having a nervous breakdown every time Bitcoin decides to cosplay as a heart monitor, specifically as a heart monitor attached to me after my third cup of coffee. Now, why are institutions gonna love this thing? Why? Because it sits senior to everything else. It's senior to Mercury, it's senior to the common stock. I imagine it'll be seen to whatever dangerous new financial instrument that Metaplanet invents next year. Class A doesn't care about dilution, it doesn't care about volatility, it doesn't care about the chart, it just sits at the top and gets paid like it's a corrupt landlord. So I think this class is essential if you want the big funds, the pension managers, serious capital to take you seriously. You can't build a multi-billion-dollar Bitcoin treasury entirely on instruments designed for pyromaniacs and degenerates. That's just not going to work. You need a share class that says we respect your risk profile. Please ignore everything else we're doing in the background. And Class A is that share. It is the capitalism-approved tranquilizer dart that keeps institutions calm while Metaplanet goes absolutely berserk underneath. Now we get to Class B, which is known as Mercury, also known as the financial instrument that you would invent if your only goal in life was to drag every spare yen in Japan directly into Bitcoin. And the reality is, Class B isn't here to stabilize anything. Class B isn't here to reassure anybody. It is here to raise capital at a pace that would give a central banker chest pains. Now, this thing is perpetual, which means it doesn't expire. It just sits there forever like a squat rack in a prison gym. It pays a 4.9% fixed cumulative dividend, which is hilarious because that's basically nothing compared to how much Bitcoin they're trying to buy with the proceeds. And the reality is, an international institution lined up to buy it at no discount. That's correct, because somebody internationally apparently started to feel something big happening. And I think that Metaplanet raised like $130 million, $140 million already with this thing, and it's not even out yet. And this is the fun part. It has a 1-to-1 convertibility ratio. It has a 1,000 yen liquidation preference and converts into common stock at 1,000 yen, which means it only converts if the stock absolutely rips. It only dilutes after the company wins, and when it converts, the BTC per share math becomes catastrophic for anyone who ignored this company. This is like Strategy Strike, okay? It's a hybrid between a yield instrument and a weapon system for long-term capital growth, okay? It kind of sells safety on the surface while hiding that conversion trigger that lets the holders of the stock absorb Bitcoin upside like it is a sponge. So Mercury is how Metaplanet is going to kind of bypass the limitations of their common stock. This is how they're going to raise enormous capital without crushing existing shareholders. It's how they build a Bitcoin treasury that doesn't care what the stock price is doing today. And let me be clear, kids, this isn't some one-off preferred issuance. This is the first of many. Mark the Bitcoin wizard's words, kids. They built Mercury specifically to be issued repeatedly like a subscription service for people who want Bitcoin exposure, but also want to pretend they're responsible adults. And because it's a convertible preferred, it does something that regulators just absolutely hate, because it combines fixed income stability better than Japanese investors get right now with their negative real yields. And it's also combined with that leveraged Bitcoin exposure in a single instrument, and that's why it's being set up for a future IPO. That's why an international institution's already bought an entire allocation. This is why the company raised a lot of yen without ever discounting the price, because Mercury is is a new engine. Class B is the device. This is the instrument that's going to drive Metaplanet's BTC holdings into the stratosphere until they start showing up in IMF reports as some geopolitical risk. Class A is going to be what keeps the adults calm, but Class B is where the real action is. All right, so now we get to the moving strike warrants, the things that have haunted this company, like an ex who still has your Netflix password. Now, I'm obviously biased. Did these help the company 6x their Bitcoin stack in 6 months? Absolutely, they did. But Metaplanet finally snapped and deleted almost 400 million moving strike warrants in one move. No hesitation, no nostalgia for them. They treated these warrants like expired coupons and threw them straight into the shredder. And this is the part of the story where all of the Metaplanet shareholders who were a little bit bearish, but not bearish enough to sell their stock, they get to stand up and clap like a drunk uncle at a wedding. The MSWs did become a big overhang on the entire company, in my opinion. They were too big, they were too messy, they were too cheap, they were too old, they were too annoying. So Metaplanet got rid of them, not adjusted, not reworked, eliminated. And then, this is the best part, they reissued only 210 million moving strike warrants at higher exercise floors, 105 million at 637 JPY and 105 million at 777 JPY. And they did it at a 0% discount. Zero, not even a courtesy markdown. They basically said, hey, if you want warrants, you are paying full price. Grow up. This completely changes the game because this dilution pressure that everybody's been crying about, well, now it's gone. The overhang is erased. The cheap conversion is dead. The legacy poison pill is removed. The company has performed a cleanup of their cap table. They have performed a targeted strike on the single biggest reason that investors hesitated to go all in the first place. And I think that this move is going to restore a lot of confidence. It's going to impress some institutions. It's signaling that the company is done living with the consequences of its past and ready to behave like the second era of the Bitcoin treasury company that intends to scale with perpetual preferred equity issuance. So this is the new capital stack. Now Metaplanet is structuring for Bitcoin leverage through perpetual preferred equity issuance. We have Mars on top that's kind of looking like that will be released after Mercury. So Mercury is going to be coming out first. That's the exciting thing. That's when the fun really begins. And then we have the common stock at the bottom, also known as the spiritual home of degenerates and visionaries. This is the one that I just bought more of because I am so giga bullish on this company. Common stock gets nothing first. We all know that. We know that common stock takes on the most risk. We know that common stock absorbs every mistake that the company ever makes and every victory that the company will ever have. Common stock is the class with the biggest Bitcoin beta and the smallest margin for tiers. It gets rewarded last, but it gets rewarded the hardest. So we have a senior preferred that's going to keep institutions calm. We have a perpetual preferred that's really going to fuel a lot of Bitcoin accumulation, and a common stock that's going to ride the explosion in BTC per share. This is a structure built to raise capital continuously, a hierarchy that is designed to survive volatility in the market, and a balance sheet strategy that makes traditional CFOs break out into hives. This is a capital stack that is engineered for maximum Bitcoin leverage, minimum dilution pain, and infinite rounds of fundraising. The capital that's trapped in Japan, the well runs very deep, and this is a weapon that Metaplanet will utilize to convert all of that trapped capital into Bitcoin. And really quickly, I do want to show you this quick video I made about why I'm so bullish on Mercury. So this here is the video I made of the Metaplanet Mercury effect. I'm wondering how much Bitcoin could they actually buy if they are able to issue Mercury at 25% of their Bitcoin net asset value? A very interesting question. Absolutely. I'm going to try to pause it right here at the end so we all can see. And the result is that they would be able to acquire 160,526 Bitcoin off just this instrument if they are able to issue that much. And in my opinion, the demand could absolutely be here for this. When I see the success of the strategy preferreds this year, Sailors raised $7.8 billion or so in IPOs just this year. And remember, because Metaplanet is smaller, they need a lot less issuance to be 25% amplified. They only need about 650 million, 700 million, depending on the day, to be issued of perpetual preferred equity to be 25% amplified, compared to multiple billions from Strategy. This is assuming no additional Bitcoin acquired from Class A, from the common equity issuance, from any actual debt that they would take out. We're talking 160,000 Bitcoin acquired. And this is only a 25%. Michael Saylor thinks it's going to be 30% over the next 2 decades, and I am being conservative, assuming 25% only over the next decade. This means that Bitcoin would be at 810,000 and Metaplanet would be sitting on $155.1 billion of Bitcoin just acquired through Mercury alone, which is about a 70x return from here just on net asset value. Gee, I wonder why I'm so bullish on this company over the long term. But then again, you'll still have those total idiots being like, Adam, but the stock went down over the last 100 days. This is just what separates the people who will be rich and the people who want to be rich, okay? The people with the low time horizons, the people with the time horizons of an ant. Sorry guys, I just like math. I like the idea of issuing equity and raising $155 billion over 10 years, okay? And yes, did I like my own post? Absolutely I did. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't have said it. So this is the end game right here. Total Bitcoin accumulation at massive scale. They still have the 210,000 Bitcoin target for the end of 2027. That is a 7x from here with their current Bitcoin stack, and it is going to be amazing to see how much capital they can raise once these shares are totally out there, when people can just buy them. This business model is incredible. Mercury pays you a 4.9%. That's your cost of capital to buy Bitcoin, 4.9%. I made this point yesterday too. What if Metaplanet issues all of this Mercury, it gets bought up, and then Metaplanet, instead of taking all of the capital and buying Bitcoin, they buy Stretch from Strategy? What if they buy Stretch from Strategy right now? They lock in an 11.2% effective yield. They take less than half of the Stretch yield to pay the dividends on Mercury, and then they take the spread and just buy more Bitcoin. They wouldn't even need an operating business at all at that point. Now, obviously, maybe in the long run, it might be smart to pay the dividends with their cash secured put income. Obviously, it would probably make the most sense to buy as much Bitcoin as possible. They're Bitcoin maxis like me, they get it. I'm just saying it's a fun thought experiment. I really think that the cross-jurisdictional Bitcoin accumulation with these different perpetual preferred equities, I think that there are going to be a lot of arbitrage plays happening between these things because of the cost of capital differential. I don't know, we'll see what happens. Obviously, the yen totally imploding is going to complicate things. The Japanese bonds just exploding in yields right now, this is complicating things. The yen carry trade is a thing that's going to be complicated. I'm just saying 4.9% cost of capital to buy Bitcoin, that's going to go up at 20+% per year. How are you not giga bullish on this? So this is the Metaplanet update that we've been waiting for. I am super giga bullish on this company. I put another 2K in yesterday into regular common stock. Right now, you can still buy stock that's not even valued at the level of their Bitcoin holdings. So when everybody was rushing in to buy a 6x MNAV and everybody's staying away at a discount, well, no financial advice here, but I don't think that's how money is made. My name is Adam Livingston. I am the Bitcoin Wizard. I hope you enjoyed this presentation on this new Metaplanet news. It is tremendously exciting. Please like this video to help the algorithm. Please subscribe to the channel as well if you are not subscribed. It helps the algorithm, help me orange pill the masses, because I'm bringing the energy every single day. Nobody can keep up with my energy, my dearest little goblin rats. I need your help, so also leave a comment with what content you want to hear me talk about next. Have a terrific day. Do not party too hard. Class dismissed. Once again, a special thanks to Horizon for sponsoring this video. Most people don't realize this, but on average, 60% of American homeowners' net worth is locked up in their primary residence. And with home prices more inflated than ever, Americans now sit on a combined $35 trillion in home equity. Now there's a way to unlock that trapped capital and put it to work in Bitcoin. Horizon helps homeowners unlock a portion of their home equity to buy Bitcoin. It is not a loan, so there are no new monthly payments. You keep living in your home as usual, and then later when you sell, refinance, or choose to settle early, Horizon's provider takes an agreed share of your home's future value. That is the trade. Unlock cash now to stack Bitcoin by selling a slice of your home's future value while you continue living in it. What makes Horizon stand out is that there are no term limits and you keep 100% of the Bitcoin upside. The Bitcoin is fully yours to custody however you want, wherever you want, with no risk of forced liquidation. If you've been sitting on a pile of home equity and are eager to invest in Bitcoin, this may be the product for you. Visit Join Horizon
horizon.com to see if you qualify and get started. Their team of experts will work with you one-on-one from start to finish. Transform your dormant home equity into Bitcoin today with Horizon.